This is my video diary. This is my video diary entry number 1. Hopefully, I can see myself very fine. So, just getting comfortable. And this is my video diary entry number 1. So, this is me just practicing being honest with myself, truthful, recounting my feelings and my days, and just saying what I want and being the validation that I need for myself and stepping into my purpose confidently. So first things first, I'm super nervous, but that is okay. That also means that I am excited. I'm excited to finally be speaking with myself, for myself, being my own interpreter, being my authentic self, and just speaking from the heart. So, I've been really struggling these past few years, and what I've really been struggling with is just feeling like I'm not enough, feeling like I'm not worthy, feeling like I'm a failure in my mid-20s. And I know that it isn't true consciously and all of these things, but I also know that my issue is that I put my worth into things outside of me instead of myself. I put my worth into my accomplishments, other people's validations and opinions and thoughts and society's version of who I should be versus myself. And today that is all changing, because I've had enough. I had enough of being sad, being depressed, being someone that I wasn't, wearing a mask. I'm tired of just living a life that I know that isn't in alignment with me, isn't what God sent for me. So with that being said, on this journey, I choose to accept myself for who I am at this very moment, without any of what I may want or desire in the future, or what I may think needs to change, but just accepting me for who I am in this very moment in time, and being able to show compassion in this very moment in time for who I am right now. There's a lot of things in my life that have happened, but it's been very hurtful and traumatic, and caused me to, well, not caused, but created a pattern for me that no longer serves me. So I was able to go back home this past week, and it was a very interesting trip. So for the trip, I talked more than I listened. I did things differently than I've done in the past when taking a trip home. Because usually when I take a trip home, it isn't a good time for me, honestly. The truth be told. But this time, when I came back to my new home, to my new place of residence, to reflect, it was different. I could say to myself, like, I had a great time. I felt comfort, I felt secure, I felt joy. I was able to play. It was just really a healing experience for my inner child. And I was able to be more silent than talk. So I was able to practice my active listening skills. And when I say this is a blessing in disguise, because I have been a person who really needs to work on my patience, and that is what I have been doing for myself, because I can go from 0 to 100 and, you know, being very reactive, which hurts me in the long run more than it is helpful. But I know that it is a pattern because of my formative years in the environment that I grew up in. And that trip back home allowed me to put all of that into perspective for me. And what I will say is that I realized, you know, I was a mean kid because I was sad. I had a very poor home life. Honestly, I had parents that should not have been having a kid, and honestly shouldn't have kids. I'm gonna just be real, because there's a lot of things that, even though they've had their issues as well, it just it piled up is what I'm gonna say. And for me, it's just time to be honest. I know a lot of times we want to be like, okay, our parents did the best that they could, and that very well may be true, but sometimes with a child, especially when you're just so impressionable and your brain does not fully understand a logical way, because our frontal lobes are not developed at that time, and we tend to personalize a lot of things, develop these defense mechanisms and coping mechanisms. And I know I definitely did, because I grew up in a very toxic environment where it was a lot of drugs, violence, sex, pimping, hoeing, all of that, like things that a child should not even be exposed to. Abuse, people being abusive to you, SA, like a lot of just traumatic things, being homeless, just a lot. And as a child, you tend to think that those things are your fault because you're a child and you don't understand, and you're very innocent, and you come into the world and you just want that connection. So as an adult, that carried on with me of just wanting that connection and bypassing a lot of things and ignoring a lot of my emotions and not knowing how to deal with them, because it was either, you know, fight or flight options in the environment. No other response was, yeah. So now with that trip in home, I can accept that, you know, even if your parents said that they did their best, it wasn't conducive to you as an adult. It didn't set you up in the long run. But now that you know that, you have the opportunity to set yourself up the way that you would like to, and rewire those neurons and pathways in the way that are beneficial to me and my longevity and what I feel like is success for me, and what is comforting to my nervous system. Woo! Because a lot of times, even right now, I know that as Black women, we get labeled very angry all the time. Or even as like Black people in general, we get labeled as angry. And we have to realize that a lot of times other emotions aren't acceptable or as like tolerable if you're angry. Like, people are expecting you to be angry, so that's the emotion that you tend to show. But anger tends to be just that surface level of emotion, where there are layers beneath it that needs to kind of be uncovered for you to get to the root of the anger. And for me, that was definitely true. A lot of my anger stemmed from being sad, and just now with that trip, I get to see a different light, a different perspective of, you know, growing up in a different environment, how that really shapes your behavior, and it shapes your thoughts, and it shapes your feelings and perspective on the world in a way that can set you up for either failure or success in this life. And going home, I realized that one thing that I will be changing and setting a boundary about it, if it's a topic that I don't want to talk about, my response will be, that question isn't getting answered by me. Because I know, I don't want to admit it, but I be lying about the simplest things. Because to me, people will ask me a question and I give them the truth, the answer the first time, and then it's like, now every single time when you talk to me, that's the same question that you're gonna ask me. Okay, I don't know what you want me to say, but obviously you want to hear something different, so I'm gonna give you something different. So that's not an integrity of me being authentic. It's just, I don't want to answer that. I'm not answering that. Because I realize a lot of people want you to do what they deem as safe and what they think you should do. For instance, somebody asked me a question specifically, and before I even had the chance to answer, here goes this other person chiming in, answering like they got the answer. And I didn't say anything. I just listened, because I'm like, you're not even behind the scenes to even see what people are actually looking for if you're in this area. So I was just like, okay, that's cue number one, that do not talk to this person about anything that's going on with that area of your life. Very minimum general things. So in being silent, God has allowed me to set up some boundaries for myself. Not to be like, okay, this person can't do this. No, this is for you to implement for yourself. You're not worried about what the other person's doing. And I realized that I just have to be confident in what God has shown me, the vision for me, because God didn't give that to other people. And that's why what I'm doing looks so out of place and out of order, like, oh, that's not what you should be doing, and blah blah blah, or you should do this, or I have this suggestion, even though it doesn't align with anything that I told you I was interested in. So it's just about being silent and moving forward in the way that I would like for my life, because at the end of the day, it's about how I feel. And I no longer can accept receiving validation from others, because 9 times out of 10 it's not going to be pushing me towards what God has in store for me, and what I truly have in store for myself, and what I know I'm capable of. Because a lot of times people will put you at their skill level, and not saying that anyone's skill level is, oh, I'm better or this or that, but it's like we don't have the same interest, and what your limitations are may not be my limitations, and what your strengths are may not be my strengths. So I need to play it at the playing field that's advantages for me versus what somebody else deems. And that is how I have been doing it my whole life, when things have worked out in my greatest favor. And I'm not going to change that, because God was showing me through all those times, through all the happenings, through all the experiences, through all the reactions, the responses, this is what it's about. Like, I put you here to step into you, not to step into anyone else or anyone else to step into you, but for you to step into you. I love me. And on that note, see you tomorrow, Malika.